This is another video, and I decided to do it in the way of the podcast. When you listen to the person, but you can't see the person, so it's like the radio recording. So you can't see any pictures from the podcast, and the person, the host of the podcast, can describe you with the words, some pictures, some details, some graphs and other stuff. And I think this is what I'm going to do with my videos. I did this for the last 30 videos, but I planned to get some pictures to it, but I almost forget. I almost forgot my goal of these videos, and my goal was to practice my verbal language. And to do this, I don't need to prepare for the video. I don't need to create any any drawings and other materials. I just need to practice my speaking as smooth as possible with as many active vocabulary as I can get out of my mind. So I have an idea about talking on some movies, describing just the plot of the movie the way I can read in Wikipedia sometimes. And I have several movies that I like and that I watched several times, so I remember the plot quite well. And the first movie I want to talk about is Knocking on Heaven's Door. This is the German movie made in 1997, and okay, maybe I don't remember the name of the first actor, of the only actor I know in this movie, but the guest actor in this movie, and the big boss of the whole thing was Rutger Hauer, and he appeared only for a couple of minutes, but his role is quite important, and he was very bright to be remembered. Well, I planned to talk about the plot from the beginning to the end, recalling as many details for the movie as I could. But for now, I decided to get some small scenes from the movie, and they won't be in any chronological order. These are just the scenes that I like, and maybe later, maybe in the next movie, in the next recording, when I recall all the details from this movie, I will go with retelling the whole story from the beginning to the end. I think I watched Knocking on the Heaven's Door 2 years ago. It was the last time I watched this movie. So this recording will be like the remembering after the long period of time when I didn't watch it. So yeah, let's go. Let's go to the ending of this movie. The ending was about. The ending was about. So this young, I don't know, younger policeman or some higher, lower, maybe lower policeman. I mean the status of the policeman, who wanted to catch these two guys, Martin and Rudy, for the whole movie. He organized this thing. Okay, he organized this thing. Okay, I'll just go with the pause. Pause. This young detective organized some trap near the house of Martin's mother because they knew from the seller of like used cars, from the seller of the used cars, they knew that Martin bought the pink Cadillac as Elvis's for his mother as the present. So the policeman just waited for near his mother's house till he appeared, and he came with Rudy in this pink Cadillac, and he rang the doorbell of his mother's house. She went out, and he gave her this present, and because it was her dream to have such Cadillac when she saw a long time ago. Yeah, she saw that Elvis had bought and presented his mother such Cadillac, and she had shedded, прослезилась. Okay, she had tears in her eyes, and since then Martin, her son, he dreamt to buy her such Cadillac. So he fulfilled his dream, and his mother said his mother was happy, and she again had tears in her eyes. She cried from the happiness, and she said that his son. Okay, she said that she hadn't driver license to drive this Cadillac, and her son was not Elvis either. At this moment, the policeman decided to catch Martin, and they all went out of their cars, and they took out their guns, and this young policeman, low policeman, I don't know, low in status, he ordered Martin to surrender, And Martin took out his gun and pointed at the policeman. Then and his mother was kind of surprised what was this all about. And then Rudy saw this and he got out of the car, out of this I think pink Cadillac, and he ran to Martin, and he started he started to tell Martin to surrender, because Rudy would see the sea sometime later. And then Martin confessed to him that it was possible for Rudy to see the sea later, but Martin did not have such luxury of waiting, because he was dying. He had maybe the last day of his life remaining, and at this moment Rudy understood that when Martin told him about this rule that everyone in the sky would be talking about the sea, and those who never were at the sea would be called douchebags. So Rudy understood that Martin had not been talking about him, Rudy, but he had been talking about himself. At this moment, Martin had another seizure, and he let go of his gun, and he fell on the ground. At this moment, policeman decided that he surrendered, but Rudy ran to him, and he explained to the policeman that Martin was ill and that he needed the ambulance. And this young policeman, so they called the ambulance, and they put they put Martin on the stretchers, and Rudy said that he would go with Martin. For this, young policeman repeated the words of the psychologist who told them about some Helsinki syndrome, when the hostage started to feel some when the hostage feels some emotion, some, I don't know, affection or something like this, attraction to the person. The hostage felt the attraction to the person who had taken him or her as the hostage, and this syndrome was called in psychology Helsinki syndrome. So this young detective believed that he observed the phenomenon of this Helsinki Helsinki syndrome, and he allowed Rudy to accompany Martin inside the ambulance. So the ambulance car started towards the hospital. The policeman stayed at Martin's house, and maybe they returned to the police station. And somewhere on the way to the hospital, Martin came to his senses. Sure. Came to his senses, and Rudy understood that it was their last chance, so they kind of seized. They maybe seized the ambulance car. They tied the doctors to the light pole somewhere along the road, and they took this car and moved to the final point of their destination, to the seashore. And they left the car, and then they walked along some sandy road towards this seashore. And it was some like beginning of the storm on the sea. There was no rain, but the clouds were very dark. Maybe it was some special effect when the creators of the movie added this dark sky, dark clouds, but the wind was quite strong, and the waves on the sea were strong as well. And we could see that when Martin and Rudy went towards the sea, their hair and the jackets, the trousers were moved with this strong wind. Yeah. And at this moment, Martin confessed to Rudy that he wanted to confess that he was afraid of dying, but Rudy stopped him and told him that some line from the conversations in the beginning of this movie, like he repeated that he knew the death did not exist, something like that. Then they sat on the sand, looking at this storming sea. I think Martin was smoking his cigarettes. Rudy was just drinking something, maybe this tequila or something. And they sat like this for some time, and at some point Martin's face became unmoving, and he fell to the side. He fell to the side, with his head on the sand, and this was the moment when he died. And Rudy continued to see it on the shore, looking at the sea, drinking his tequila. And at this moment, this music knocking on heaven's door, the song that was written by Bob Marley started to sound. Later, I learned that this was some of the covers by some of German bands, and this particular cover sounded different than the original Bob Dylan's song. And we understood that Rudy had more time to live, that he would eventually die, as his father died from this bone cancer, like sarcoma. I don't know the name of this illness, of this disease in English. But it would took him maybe a year, maybe 5 years. So he didn't he hadn't seen the sea before this moment, but all this adventure traveling to the sea was for Martin's sake, because Martin didn't have enough time to get to the sea. And we knew that sometime later Rudy would take Martin's body, put him into this ambulance car that they had stolen. Then he would drive this car back to his mother's home, and his mother would bury his son, and then Rudy would explain everything to the police. And then he would die sometime later, somewhere at his house. So this is just a funny story about two guys who moved to the sea, to see the sea before they die. And this is the end scene of this movie. And now I go with the pause. Okay, I think even describing this last scene in the movie, I forgot the very important scene, and it was between the moment when Martin presented the Cadillac to his mother and the last scene on the shore. So it's after they bought this Cadillac from the used car, second-hand cars, they moved to his mother's house, and they used the phone book or maybe address book, and they just took all the money that left from this big from this boss's money from this boss's suitcase that they had found in the trunk of the car, and they just took this money and sent them to different people. I think they threw them into these people's mailboxes, just according to some phone book or address book. They wanted to give away all the money, but Rudy kept some money for himself, because his goal, his dream, was to have sex with two women in some motel. It was his dream before he would die, as Martin's dream was to buy and present this pink Cadillac to his mother. So then they had this scene with his mother and the police and this ambulance, and when they stole the ambulance from the doctors, they moved forward, and at some point they passed the motel with these prostitutes, and they just parked the ambulance car in front of this motel, and came into the building, and they called the woman who was the owner of this motel, and Rudy asked for two women, and he chose from all the prostitutes that were available in this motel, and Martin wasn't the part of this party, because he had fulfilled his dream with his mother already, and the Cadillac already. So Rudy had his dream sex with these two women, and we just observed the like as he was lying in the bed with these two women after the sex, and they asked him why he was so upset. Maybe he didn't like their sex. He said that it was that he was just young, and he didn't make many things in his life, but this particular sex was the best sex in his life. And at this moment, yeah, the guys with the guns pointed his guns at him, and they said that it was his last sex in the life, because the two bandits from whom Martin and Rudy had stolen the car with all this $1 million in the beginning of the movie, these two bandits walked in this motel, and the real owner of this motel was their boss, from whose money was that in the first place. And when Martin and Rudy came into the hotel, and Rudy took these two women somewhere upstairs, these two bandits who walked in in the laundry for that moment because boss was angry with them because they lost his money. These two bandits, they recognized Rudy, and they came to the boss and they explained to him that the guys who had stolen his money were in his motel. So they came to Rudy, took Rudy, and they took Martin from one of the rooms where he was staying, and they put them both in the cellar of this motel in front of their boss. And their boss talked to him, to this Martin and Rudy. He wanted to get his money back. Yeah, his money back, but they told him that they had his money. He didn't believe, but they explained that they sent all the money according to some random addresses in the address book. He thought that they were laughing at him. So he said that if they returned his money to him, he would give them their lives, or maybe present them their lives. And they started to laugh at his suggestion, and to show that he was serious, he pointed at Rudy, or maybe at Martin, and he said that he would just kill him at this. And this saying, Martin explained that he had a cancer in his brain of the size of a ball, and he would die in 2-3 days anyway, and this boss could kill him because he didn't care about this. And then the boss pointed the gun at Rudy and threatened him as well. But Rudy explained that he had the bone cancer, so he would die soon anyway, and he wasn't afraid of being killed. So the boss was frustrated, and he ordered his bandits to kill these two guys. And when they just prepared to kill Martin and Rudy, the big boss, the boss of this boss, came downstairs to this cellar. It was Rutger Hauer. And he wanted to talk to this boss, his sub-boss, and this sub-boss explained that all his money was stolen by these two guys, but Rutger Hauer was surprised. He didn't believe him. He asked these two guys about the money, and Martin and Rudy said that they didn't know anything about money. And Rutger Hauer said that he thought this way, and he also had watched the television, and he knew about their problem, that they had cancer, and they both had cancer in the last stage, and he asked them what they wanted to do next, and they said to Rutger Hauer that they were going to the sea because they had never seen the sea before, and he let him go. He allowed him to go, and they ran out of this cellar, and next what we saw, they were driving the ambulance car towards the seashore, and the voice of Rutger Hauer continued to sound and at the background as they rode towards the sea, and he repeated the same lines that Martin had told to Rudy in the hospital where they first met, that at the sky they only talked about the sea, about the sun, this huge hot ball, sphere that goes into the sea and disappear in the horizon, and something else, and it was his words for it was his farewell words for them. And then there was this scene when they reached the seashore and went to the sea, and then the song started to sound in the end of the movie. Okay, and now I will talk about some the scene that preceded this ending of the movie, and it will be quite quick because there were not many dialogues in this scene of pursuit, so I think at some point Martin and Rudy came to some city, and Martin had his seizure, but all the pills that helped against the seizure were finished, and Rudy ran into the pharmacy, and he shot the gun into the wall to make the pharmacy man give him these strong pills without any prescription. Then he came back to Martin and gave him these pills, but the police was informed about them, about this gun and the incident but the incident in the pharmacy, and the police came to this place, and the reporters came to this place because they knew about these two guys from the previous events in the movie, and Martin and Rudy got into some Turkish restaurant, and police surrounded this restaurant, and the reporters gave the information about the situation. So there were elder people in this restaurant, and there was the guy who worked at this restaurant, young guy. And Martin and Rudy just sat there for some time. Then they gave this guy money from the suitcase for the food they had, and then again Martin behaved as if he took Rudy. Maybe he had taken Rudy as his hostage. They got into someone else's car that was just standing in front of this restaurant, and they went out of the city, and all the police cars were pursuing them. At some point, they made the distance between their car and the police cars, because all the police cars stopped at the red light. But all the bandits from this small boss, maybe 10 bandits or 8 bandits who traveled in 2 cars and had lots of guns with them, they blocked the road with their cars, and they blocked the road in front of the Martin and Rudy's car. So Martin stopped his car in front of the bandits, but then the green light began to be on, and all the police car came back to Martin and Rudy's car. So the policemen came out of their cars and they pointed guns at Martin and Rudy and at these bandits, and these bandits pointed their guns at Martin and Rudy and the policemen, because Martin and Rudy were in the car between the cars of the bandits and the cars of policemen. At some point, Martin started his car, and it went in the direction that was perpendicular to the road, and bandits started to shoot at the policeman, and the policeman started to shoot at the bandits, but Martin and Rudy traveled in their car through some crop that was very, very high, and hid the car from the policemen and from the bandits. Maybe it was some corn or something, and then the field of this corn ended, and their car fell off the cliff. It was not very high, but they injured themselves, like they injured their noses and had some bruises, but they successfully got out of their car, and then they came to the cellar of these second-hand cars, where Martin bought the pink Cadillac for his mother. And from this point, they moved to his mother's house. And this seller of the second-hand cars, he got the money from Martin and Rudy for this car, for this Cadillac, and then he called police and got the reward from the police because he said where Martin and Rudy were, or maybe where they moved into which to which point, to which destination, because they had said to him that they wanted to buy for Martin's mother the Cadillac as Elvis had bought for his mother. So this is the end of the one of another scene from this movie that preceded the scenes in the end of the movie, about which I had told earlier. And I think that's all for today, because the total video is about 40 minutes, and that's all right for today. And maybe tomorrow I will continue to talk about these episodes in the movie, and somewhere in the future I retell the story from the beginning to the end in the chronological order. But for now, that's all.